Erik Ten Hag, the Manchester United manager, is here to stay. There was a lot of speculation around him, especially about a couple of weeks back when that all-important FA Cup final, the trophy that you see him holding right now, that's had a huge role to play in terms of him staying at the club. Going into the match, it was being widely reported that he was perhaps managing Manchester United for the last time in his career, but as fate would have it, not only did he won the FA Cup in a very convincing manner, what it has managed to do for him is get him more time at the club. There was a review that happened, and we are going to be talking about everything that's happened at Manchester United over the last couple of weeks. In fact, even before that, why was it that he was perhaps put on notice? Who are the other contenders if he wasn't to keep his job? All of that we'll be discussing in this video, and also we will first and foremost begin by talking about whether this is the right move for Manchester United or not. My dear colleague Shane joins me in this chat, and we'll be going through everything that there is too in terms of this big development coming out of Old Trafford. Shane, your thoughts?
I mean, see, first off, it's a big surprise. I'm being very frank because United have a history in this regard. Everyone was comparing this to the manner in which, Louis van Gaal got sacked.
He was the last manager to win the FA Cup.
Not just that, news leaked before the final, which is exactly what happened to Ten Hag. The news leaked and everyone's thinking, okay, this guy is a dead man walking. It's a matter of when, not if. Mourinho at that point in time, took over from Van Gaal. There was already talks of being linked to many managers, but he survived. And again, one of the key reasons is that, remember, United are now under new minority ownership. Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are the ones who are running this. Sporting decisions, right now the Glazers are just the majority commercial interest owners. So their job right now isn't making sporting decisions. Remember, Ineos have brought in a lot of people. There's of course Dave Brailsford, who's pretty much the man who runs the entire Ineos sporting empire. They're bringing in other people as well. There's an Omar Berrada from City who will be coming in. Dan Ashworth from Newcastle will be joining whenever the hell they agree a compensation package. The man is still on his second month of gardening leave. That is something. But what they've done is decided that, listen, the man who we have, and again the man who they had rather publicly chosen not to back, they said, okay, we're going to stick with him. And it's a complete U-turn because, again, if you go by, and let's just go over the chronology of how things were. Going into the FA Cup final, it was so bad that Ten Hag was basically fielding questions about it, both before the final and after the final. Even after the final, I remember him saying something to the likes of, if they don't want me, I go somewhere else and win trophies because that's what I do. And I'm like, okay, pretty punchy statement from a man who knows he's on the brink.
Even Sir Alex Ferguson, who was there in Wembley for that match as well, he was asked that question and he said in a candid manner, joking manner, he said that I'm no longer the manager. So this was the talk. Let's be honest about it. This was the talk going into that match. Even after it ended as well, the talk did not dissipate. It continued to be the major talking point as far as Manchester United are concerned, and the club was seeking replacements. That was something that was widely reported as well. But if you want to ask me how I look at this as not just a fan of the club, but also as an analyst, I would say it's the right decision for Manchester United to make, and I was so praying, the fan inside me was so praying that this was the decision that they make as well. On a couple of counts that I feel that Erik Ten Hag should be given more time. One, of course, is no other manager as well. You look at somebody like a Jurgen Klopp as well, who's believed to be the gold standard only after Pep Guardiola in the last 10 years. Let's say even he didn't get the results going his way the first couple of years. So let's be honest, you need to give managers enough time to be able to structure a squad according to their liking. Speaking of the squad, and this is what brings me to the second reason, which is a big reason. 45 injuries is too many, is one too many injuries for any manager to have a good season with. Then you have you look at Manchester City, there was a point they had 0 injuries even when they were alive in all 3 competitions.
Correct.
So for Manchester United, who were out of the Champions League and the Europa League subsequently, didn't have a lot of competitions also, or had one competition less. The Premier League was more or less done and dusted with. 45 injuries is something you really cannot ask any manager to then be having a good season with those many injuries. And then, of course, the win against Manchester City in the FA Cup final, and in the manner in which that victory came, this was, make no mistake, no stroke of luck for Manchester United. They deserved that victory. The way that they played is something that even the neutral would then admit that they were the rightful winners of the FA Cup. So all of that put together, and primarily the fact that this gives Erik Ten Hag another transfer window, and that's how you judge a manager. There have been some transfers that have worked, the transfers that he wanted. There aren't some that did not work. There are some that didn't work. In fact, Antony is one such player that comes to my mind, because he was so hell-bent on bringing Antony. United overpaid as well, because the interest in Antony we knew was coming from the manager. It became public, and which is why United would say, and probably the world of football knows it, that that there was an overpriced deal that Manchester United signed. So a little bit of heat over there, but you need to give managers that leeway as well at times. Look at somebody like a Pep Guardiola. He needs those players. He needs those ingredients that he wants to make that dish. So if you are to give Ten Hag and assess Ten Hag, then you have to be giving him this one more transfer window, and then you can go ahead and assess how things work for him as a manager.
And the thing is, from what you are getting to hear, he may just get more than one transfer window, because if you read the last line on what you can see on the screen, the Dutchman will see out his current deal. Now, his current deal is a 3+1, so he's already seen out 2 years. This will be the last guaranteed year, and the club have an option to extend it by a further 12 months. But what we're also getting to hear from very credible sources is that they're going to be discussing a new deal with him, so an extension beyond the current 3+1, which tells you that listen, they've made a decision that of the options available, and believe you me, we'll go over some of the options they went with, he's probably the best bet as things stand. And I mean, see, you can go either way, but I don't think, if you're asking me, and this is more of a let's say a rival fan perspective, I haven't seen a lot of what Ten Hag is supposed to be bringing to United that would maybe be that appealing. There's mixed results. It's been hit or miss, and a lot of the times even I keep wondering, I'm like, is this guy right? But then I look at the alternatives and say, is there anyone who's going to come in and instantly transform? It's not going to be the case. You note for a fact that United, the state they're in, they need a slow but steady kind of a slow build overhaul. They need a process manager, if I have to use that term, like what say an Arteta did to Arsenal, wherein you need to take time, cut the dead wood, ensure you get in a fresh batch of players who are hungry, want to play for the shirt. There's more cohesion in the, let's say, recruitment.
And Ten Hag, the one thing that he did was he did give that sort of a vibe at different points of the season as well. Look at the midfield. By the end of it, you had a Kobe Mainoo who had made his Manchester United debut. Then goes on to play for England as well, part of the Euro squad. Correct. Also now as we speak. There is somebody like a Garnacho who's come from the ranks. He is in many ways giving Marcus Rashford some sort of backing as well. So players who come from...
Does he need that backing?
Players who've come from academy, and that's how it will be looked at. Rasmus Højlund, another young player by the way. So you're looking at the trio of these three youngsters, and Rashford, let's say, does continue to be in the scheme of things for the future. He was dropped a few times, and rightly so as well. Disciplinary issues came up. He's a hard taskmaster is what we know. We've seen what happened with Cristiano Ronaldo. We've seen what happened with the Jadon Sancho. Marcus Rashford was also shown the bench for inconsistency a few times. So there are certain things that he, once he's formed those rules, once he's put in those guidelines, he's not the kind of manager you can take for a ride.
And that's good, because I think a lot of the problems with a certain section of the United squad was that they were overindulged. Yeah. Now I understand indulging players if you're serial winners or something, but it's not like this is a dressing room full of Messis and Ronaldos.
Serial winners.
It's not quite frankly. So you've got players with big egos who've done pressure to deserve those big egos. And as I said, one of the reasons I was fine sticking with him is because if you look at the options that you had, none of them really inspire that much confidence. Okay, you've got a Tuchel, but every club that Tuchel has gone in has ended up either alienating the board, the dressing room, or both. Yeah. In the case of Bayern, it was both. In the case of Dortmund, it was both. In the case of PSG, it was the boardroom. In the case of Chelsea, it was both. So how is it? Very difficult to work with. Roberto De Zerbi, same problem.
Yeah.
And again, De Zerbi is a young manager, and it's pretty telling. He was linked to both Liverpool and Chelsea. Neither of them chose to pursue him. Why? Perceived as being difficult to work with. Yeah. Maurizio Pochettino, I think, was someone who could have been a good low-risk option, but I think maybe he wouldn't have necessarily fitted.
And his reputation, let's be honest, has taken a big hit.
But it's taken, actually, now if you look at it, there's more sympathy for him. And even I agree, Chelsea shouldn't have probably sacked the guy. He did very well.
See, there I agree, but elsewhere that he's gone, he's not been able to do what he was expected to do.
So there is, I think he's seen as like a, if you're looking at say A+ managers, he's maybe an A-. If you're looking at that category, that's where you're shopping. Thomas Frank done a good job with Brentford. But Are you going to be convinced that he's going to be stepping up?
Interestingly, I was reading, there was actually, yes, his name did come up, Thomas Francis, and yes, he's done a fairly good job at Brentford. They're a good side. Playing at home is one thing that we know. And you know, to get the best out of somebody like an Ivan Toney, who then also goes on to represent England. So he's done few good things as well. But officially speaking, there was actually no communication between Manchester United and Brentford for that matter. There was,
because it wouldn't have progressed beyond the initial stages, and that's the thing. If you're looking at the options, as you keep going down, it keeps getting more and more puzzling. Kieran McKenna, someone who was part of United's coaching staff under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and who has 1 year's experience of management under him, in which he got Ipswich Town promoted to the Premier League. Not saying that there won't be a good manager there, and I can't really be commenting given my club just hired Enzo Maresca. But the fact is, would United now, would a McKenna now really be that much of an improvement? Again, you're looking at a 2-3 year process, but with someone who's a less experienced manager.
It would have been the same thing as Manchester United did when they went for an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. What was his managerial experience? Cardiff.
And Molde.
Exactly. Doesn't count for much. Which is why he doesn't have any managerial job right now as well, because I think the biggest achievement for him was doing the double over Manchester City.
And finishing second in 2020-21.
Exactly. So besides that, he struggled in terms of getting himself a new job, and to manage a club like Manchester United, you heard it from the likes of Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, to the 5 managers who've been at the club. It's not never easy.
Yeah, you need someone who can live with that pressure.
Big clubs is different egos to be managed in the dressing room. It is different to, and it's going to be a different era now for even somebody like an Erik Ten Hag, because there is split ownership also now. Now things get very tricky, even though things have been very clearly outlined in terms of what the role will be, and as you rightly said, sporting operations will be the Ineos group. For everything else, there is there is the Glazer family to take care of everything else. But at times these things can get tricky. There are times that things overlap as well. So that territorial differentiation is something that managers also at times have to keep in mind. Then of course there is an overhaul as well that you're looking at. Can Manchester United, who finished 8th, really make an improvement now? Can they finally have a centre-back pairing, one that they can rely on? There is no Varane as well. Remember, his time at Manchester United is over. He's already played his last game for the club is one thing we know. You didn't have Martinez and Varane played too often, this whole season because of injuries again to the both of them. So plenty of work for Manchester United still to be done. Perhaps they need somebody in the midfield as well, a left back for sure, because there is no one. You had to play somebody like a Dalot after Luke Shaw got injured.
You were playing Sofian Amrabat at left back for a good chunk of the season.
Yes, you did that. You had to play somebody like a Casemiro from midfield. You had to take him into defense, and we all know how that turned out to be.
Not very good.
So very porous Manchester United. But we can go on and on with all of that. But just to sum things up over here, Erik Ten Hag does get more time at Manchester United.
And deservedly so.
Deservedly so. And that FA Cup final has really come to rescue him. Otherwise, given all the talk that was happening, even if you ask me, I wouldn't have liked it. But chances were
you would have understood it, because again, they finished top 4 last year. This year, they finished 8th. So it's a significant drop off in the league, but what saves him is A, the trophies he's won. Second, the fact is, I think even the ownership recognized that, listen, if we go somewhere else, it's going to be starting from scratch all over again.
Vicious circle.
It's the same cycle. Boom, bust, rinse, repeat. No point going down that route.
Yeah. So, but those are our thoughts as far as this move of Manchester United is concerned. You get into the comment section. Let us know your thoughts. Shane and I always have a good time reading all your thoughts as well. It does give us new perspective and insight as well. And in case you like what we do here at Sports Today, do follow the channel, subscribe to it. We've just crossed the 400,000 mark. Help us get to 500,000 and even beyond that. For now, we're taking a leave.